Firefighters often risk injury and even death when responding to emergency alarms, only to find the blaze has been deliberately set. Your help is needed in identifying the person or persons responsible for this incendiary of a West Palm Beach business structure, which has been labeled arson.
It was Monday night, April 27th. The Royal Dutch Lounge had closed about midnight. It is believed that soon after that time, the arsonist, perhaps with a helper, entered the building through the front door and went about the business of setting up multiple fire starting points to try to assure that the destruction would be total. It was 1:53 a.m. when West Palm Beach Fire Department received the alarm and responded immediately. It took several hours to bring the blaze under control and assure that the smoldering debris would not be rekindled. Because of the location and circumstances, someone may have seen a vehicle or persons in the shopping center and did not realize what was about to happen.
Perhaps you saw some cars parked nearby or persons entering the Royal Dutch Lounge after midnight on Monday, April 27th. We need to know. Call 689-TIPS. You don't have to give your name, and your information will be worth up to $1,000 reward.
Whenever a crime is committed, someone somewhere knows something which could lead to the solution. That's what Crime Stoppers is all about. How does it work, and is it effective? You be the judge.
This is not fictional violence. These scenes are taken from reenactments of actual crimes which were committed here in Palm Beach County. Since the summer, an anonymous tips line to report what they know about any serious crime without getting involved. Calls are received in the Crime Stoppers office, then passed along to the proper police agency for follow-up and further investigation. You don't have to give your name when you call the anonymous tips line. You're given a code number as your only identification. If your information leads to an arrest or indictment, recovery of stolen property, or confiscation of illegal drugs, you are eligible for a reward of up to $1,000. The reward fund is provided and maintained by the Citizens Board of Directors. They meet monthly to determine the amount of rewards to be paid. Since January of this year, 43 cases have been cleared and 39 arrests made. This brings the totals to 705 cases cleared, 487 arrests made, almost $1 million in stolen property recovered, and better than $10.5 million in illegal drugs confiscated.
Each Wednesday on Eyewitness 12 News at noon, 6 and 11, a major crime is spotlighted. You may have the needed clue. You're the key to success in this program when you call Crime Stoppers at 689-TIPS. In Boca del Rey, 276-TIPS. In the Glades, 996-TIPS. More than 600 cases of rape have been reported in our county since October. An estimated 10 times that many have gone unreported. Lake Worth police are asking for your help in identifying the person believed responsible for at least 2 cases of sexual battery in their city.
The date was Saturday, May 30th, the time just before dawn. The man was a rapist, and finding the unlocked garage door in the quiet residential area of Lake Worth provided the opportunity he was looking for. Quietly, he forced open the locked door leading into the house and made his way to the bedroom. The 56-year-old victim was sleeping, unaware of the dangerous intruder until he placed his hand firmly over her mouth.
I don't want to hurt you.
The woman was powerless to protect herself without endangering the life of an elderly woman sleeping in another room. The charge would be sexual battery. Almost as an afterthought, he took her purse as he fled. It was about 6:15 a.m. when Lake Worth police received the report and began the search for the white male, about 30 years old, with dark hair and medium build. He was described as very gentle in mannerism and voice. Just a few blocks away, on June 1st, between 3 and 6 a.m., police believe the same man broke into a retirement home through a bathroom window and assaulted a 76-year-old woman he found sleeping in the rear bedroom.
Crimes like this occur more often than you think, and we need your help. If you have any information about this or any other serious crime, call Crime Stoppers at 689-TIPS and be eligible for up to a $1,000 reward.
Sheriff's investigators are asking for your help in solving the murder of a young Lake Worth woman whose body was heartlessly left in a rural area of our county to be discovered by a stranger.
The young woman with flaming red hair was often seen with a wide variety of friends and acquaintances in the Lake Worth area. Even casual passersby were sure to notice the brilliant coloring. It was the petite 25-year-old's most outstanding feature. It is believed that on the evening of May 18th, she accepted a ride with someone she had known, perhaps only casually, although the relationship of this unnamed person has not been definitely established. One fact is certain. It was to be the last night of her life. A fatal gunshot wound would signal the death of another Palm Beach County resident. It was about 9:30 a.m. on Tuesday, May 19th, when her body was found in a wooded area a quarter-mile south of Forest Hill Boulevard on Blanchette Road, just west of the Turnpike. Since that time, sheriff's investigators have worked to retrace her final hours. Someone knows more about the death of Gloria Lacotte. Born November 30th, 1961, 5 feet tall, 121 pounds, with bright red hair and brown eyes. That information could be valuable.
Sometimes information that may seem unimportant to you may be just what is needed. If you have any information about this homicide, call Crime Stoppers at 689-TIPS. You don't have to give your name, and your information could be worth up to a $1,000 reward.
It is difficult to understand how a driver can hit a pedestrian, then leave without offering to help. Is it a panic reaction, fear of the consequences, or a heartless indifference to the suffering of others? In any case, leaving the scene is a felony, and the offender eventually must face the consequences. Watch now. You may be able to identify one such driver.
Northeast 70th Street in Boca Raton is a well-traveled roadway, but at 6:30 in the morning, traffic is comparatively light. It was June 17th, and the older woman was walking westbound along the north side of the road in the 600 block. She had just reached a point opposite the Seafood Connection restaurant, walking on the road to avoid the early morning sprinklers, when tragedy struck. She probably did not realize her danger until the motor roared a last-minute warning, and it was too late to escape. Fanny Checky, age 69, caught the full impact as the vehicle rolled over her. Evidence indicates the driver did apply his brakes, perhaps even stopped to assess the damage he had done to the helpless woman, then sped away, leaving her alone in the street. She was found some moments later by other passers-by. Fanny Checky was rushed to the hospital where she died. It is believed a smaller model, blue van, may have been the one involved.
If you were in the area, you may have seen something that could be helpful in identifying the suspect vehicle and driver. Call Crime Stoppers at 689-TIPS or in the Boca del Rey area, 276-TIPS. It could be worth up to $1,000 to you, and you don't have to give your name.
Arson not only is one of our more costly crimes in terms of property loss, it frequently endangers the lives of citizen victims, as well as those of professional firefighters. Investigators now need your help in identifying the person or persons responsible for this fire. which has been termed arson.
One of the best-known business landmarks in South Florida is Cushman Fruit Company, one of the state's largest fruit shipping organizations, located at 3325 Forest Hill Boulevard. Investigators believe it was just before 6 a.m. on June 30th when intruders gained entry onto the west side of the warehouse, adjacent to the cement block gift shop. Using the stairway to the second floor, they apparently found the door unlocked. Although it is not known just how long they remained in the building, it is believed that it took only minutes to set the scene for the devastating blaze. Incendiary materials would assure the destruction. At 6:45, a neighbor, noticing the smoke, notified the fire department. Firefighters, responding immediately, were successful in containing the blaze, preventing its spread to the surrounding buildings.
Damage from this fire has been estimated at better than $530,000. And we need your help in preventing such further acts of senseless destruction. If you were in the area in the early morning hours of June 30th, you may have seen something that could lead investigators to the person or persons responsible. Tell it to Crime Stoppers at 689 TIPS. You don't have to give your name, and you could be eligible to up to a $1,000 reward.
The crime reenactment you're about to see retraces the final hours of the victim to a time just prior to her death. Now, investigators are asking for your help in pinpointing the person responsible.
The Drink and Sink Lounge at I-95 and Lantana Road was going to be the last stop on the way home for Dana Fader and her sister. The date was Friday, June 19th, and the time close to midnight. The easy, relaxed atmosphere was just what Dana needed, and time passed very quickly. It was close to 2 a.m. when they left the lounge and drove the short distance to Dana's residence in the 2500 block of 10th Avenue North in Lake Worth. After leaving Dana at her apartment, her sister drove away. Evidence indicates that Dana left the apartment again, probably with someone she knew, someone whose uncontrolled violence would cost her her life. About 10:15 Saturday morning, the body of Dana Elizabeth Fader, age 27, was found in her car, a 1980 Ford four-door sedan, which had been moved to another area of the apartment parking lot. Police want to question a white male, approximately 5 feet 5 inches to 5 feet 6 inches tall, about 150 pounds, with dirty blonde hair and mustache. He had followed the two young women when they left the Drink and Sink Lounge.
Information on this homicide or any other serious crime could be worth up to a $1,000 reward. Call 689 TIPS. Remember, you don't have to give your name when calling Crime Stoppers.
The increasing number of bank robberies in Palm Beach County is a very real concern for law enforcement officers. The potential for violence is always there, especially if the robber has a gun. You may be able to identify this man and prevent another dangerous confrontation.
The date was July 21st. Duval Federal Savings and Loan, located at 6120 South Congress Avenue in Lantana, was about to be robbed. Inside, the teller was engrossed in her work when she heard the door open. Nothing unusual until she glanced up again. The man standing on the counter next to her station dropped down beside her with a gun in his hand.
Check the other drawers. Come on, check them.
They're all locked. I can't give you any.
Try it. Lay down on the floor.
With the available cash in hand, he jumped back over the counter and fled through the rear door, but fired one shot as he left. Sheriff's officers were on the scene within minutes, but were unable to trace the robber's actions beyond that point. A special alert has been issued for the suspect, described as a white male, about 5 feet 7 inches or 5 feet 8 inches tall, thin build, about 150 pounds, probably in his late 40s. He had a reddish-brown collar-length hair and several days' growth of beard. He was wearing a dirty white T-shirt and faded blue jeans with tennis shoes and a white cap.
If you have information on this suspect or any other serious crime, call Crime Stoppers at 689 TIPS. In Boca Del Rey, 276 TIPS. What you know could be worth up to a $1,000 reward, and you remain anonymous. Call Crime Stoppers. It works.
It is hard to imagine anything more terrifying than a major fire. And to believe that such a fire was deliberately set is even more frightening. Fire investigators believe the explosion and flames which destroyed this business here on Sainsbury Way were in fact deliberately set. And you may know something which could lead to the identity of the suspect. Chief Structures here on Sainsbury Way, off Southern Boulevard next to the fairgrounds, was quiet on Saturday night, August 1st. As the guard was making his rounds at 11:30 p.m., he spotted an intruder, a white male, walking from the office complex. Unable to catch the intruder, the guard used a payphone to call 911, but time was running out. It was 11:37 when the explosion rocked the entire area, igniting the intense flames. Although the explosion and fire resulted in no deaths or injuries, many lives were jeopardized. Fire units from the surrounding areas responded in a joint effort to control the blaze, but property damage is estimated at better than $100,000.
If you have any information that could help identify the person responsible for this arson, tell it to Crime Stoppers. You don't have to give your name, and your information could be worth up to a $1,000 reward. Remember the number, Crime Stoppers, at 689-TIPS.
Thieves who broke into the Sears outlet store in Belle Glade may have forgotten one important thing. Citizens now have a way to report such lawlessness and get a reward for that information through Crime Stoppers. This case provides that opportunity. The Sears outlet store at 553 Southwest 16th Street in Belle Glade had closed at its usual time on Wednesday night, August 12th. All was quiet in the Glades Plaza until sometime in the late night or early morning hours when the thieves struck. Working quickly, they carried out the valuable merchandise, 8 TV sets and 5 microwave ovens. These items were passed through the broken window where the thieves had entered, then loaded into a waiting vehicle. It took only minutes, but someone may have noticed something, which could provide a lead to the suspects. Buyers, too, are also warned to be on the lookout for so-called bargain buys. If you are approached to buy the stolen items, make note of the seller, then report the incident. Buying stolen property also is a crime.
Crime Stoppers is asking for your help in identifying the persons responsible for this burglary, and you will be paid for your information. Call 689-TIPS or 996-TIPS in Belle Glade. You don't have to give your name, and you could be eligible for a reward up to $1,000.
A visitor comes to West Palm Beach, and less than 48 hours later, his body is found on Flagler Drive. You may have seen or heard something which could identify the killer.
It was about 4:30 in the afternoon of July 13th when Wayne Fader Jean-Baptiste left his uncle's home at 410 14th Street in West Palm Beach. He had arrived in town only the day before. If he could get a job, he wanted to make the move permanent. He was headed for a store just a few blocks away. It is believed that some 5 hours later, he may have been the victim of an attempted robbery. Only one of the shots struck young Baptiste as he ran for his life. Perhaps fearing the gunshots had attracted too much attention, the attacker fled in panic without completing the robbery. It was about 10:30 a.m. on Tuesday, July 14th, when the body was found in the then unfinished parking garage at 1919 North Flagler Drive. Residents of North Flagler Drive said gunshots had been heard around 9:30 the night before, but not reported. Wayne Fader Jean-Baptiste, age 37, was dead from a single gunshot wound in the head. His wallet and cash were still in his pocket.
If you have any information which would help solve this homicide, call Crime Stoppers at 689-TIPS. You don't have to give your name, and Crime Stoppers offers a reward of up to $1,000.
Just 6 years ago, a small group of citizens met with the members of the Crime Prevention Officers Association to do something about crime in our county. The result of that meeting was a new line of communication between the police and the communities they serve. An anonymous tips line was installed, a reward fund established, and on September the 9th, 1981, the first Crime Stoppers reenactment was aired on WPEC TV 12. 5 minutes later, the phone rang in the Crime Stoppers office. We could not have anticipated the success this volunteer citizens' effort would achieve. To date, 282 major crimes have been spotlighted in WPEC. This year alone, 96 cases have been solved and 86 arrests have been made because someone called the tips line. Since the program began, 758 cases have been solved and 518 arrests have been made. In stolen property recovered and narcotic seized, the total is well over $11.5 million. Thousands of additional calls have provided information that is still being investigated. Crime Stoppers' 6th anniversary is your celebration. I feel certain I speak for the entire law enforcement community when I say thank you to the Crime Stoppers Board of Directors, to the media which spotlights solutions as well as problems, and to you for your continuing support of Crime Stoppers.
A hit-and-run death is a particularly traumatic experience for family and friends of the victim. When the death is that of a child, it is particularly heartbreaking and affects us all.
It was close to sundown, 5:45 p.m. on January 15th, and the toddler had quietly opened the front door of his home at 1368 Davis Road in Delray Beach. He had escaped from the watchful eye of his mother. Children were playing in the yard across the street. It was a cruel turn of events that the cyclist chose that moment to test the speed of his bike on that same stretch of road in the residential neighborhood. His mother heard the commotion, heard the motorcycle roaring away, and ran frantically in search of her small son. Her worst fears came true. Little Vanel Sinoble, age 2, had been killed by the hit-and-run rider. The cycle was described as a large, brown, probably Kawasaki 750cc 79 to 82 model. It had mag-type wheels and no front cowling. The motorcycle rider was a young white man, probably in his 20s, wearing boots, an open flannel shirt, a white helmet with dark-tinted face shield.
This information could be worth up to $1,000 from Crime Stoppers. Call 689-TIPS or in Boca del Rey 276-TIPS. You remain anonymous when you call Crime Stoppers. A case of attempted murder has Lake Worth police asking for help. They want to identify the suspect before he finds another victim.
The clerk in the Circle K rang up the sale of the candy bar, then watched as the young woman left the store at 10th Avenue and North G Street in Lake Worth. The date was Wednesday, September 16th. The time, about 5 a.m. She had walked only a short distance when the car pulled in beside her.
Get in the car.
Quickly. The driver had a gun and ordered her into the car. She was terrified.
Stay down. Don't move or I'll shoot you.
The car headed west toward I-95.
Where are you taking me?
Out Southern Boulevard. Get down.
As they reached the access ramp, the young woman knew this would be her only chance to escape. She opened the door and jumped. The driver slowed to a near stop and fired one shot, striking his victim in the head. He then sped north on I-95, pursued by a passing motorist, but was soon lost from view. This man is described as 25 to 30 years old, about 6 feet, thin build, dark curly hair, a mustache, and a tattoo of a skull on his upper right arm, possibly a small tattoo of a dove on his left arm. He was driving a late 70s model brown two-door Toyota.
Although she was shot in the head, this victim lived. We need to find this man before he strikes again. Any information that you have will be helpful. Please call Crime Stoppers at 689-TIPS. You can remain anonymous and be eligible for up to a $1,000 reward.
This is Reg Miller with this week's Crime Stoppers report. An elderly victim is attacked in her own home and the criminal remains at large. In this case, the woman's name has been changed, but the facts are real. You may have seen or heard something which would lead to her assailant.
Aunt Jane is 82 years old. Her hearing is not as good as it once was, but she enjoys her independence, living alone in a quiet area in the south end of Boynton Beach. The date was September 17th, the time about 1:30 a.m. She did not hear the shattering glass or the sound of footsteps as the man made his way to her bedroom. It was a nightmare repeated, sexual assault, a trauma she had endured just months ago. It was probably 45 minutes later when he left the house to make his escape in a car stolen earlier that night after a break-in in the north section of the city. He headed south on I-95 and had reached Palmetto Park Road exit when the car ran out of gas. He abandoned the car, which was struck in the rear a short time later by a southbound truck. The suspect's trail was lost. He is a black male in his 20s or 30s, 5 feet 6 inches to 5 feet 8 inches, about 150 pounds, with close-cropped hair. A T-shirt with the MS Skyward logo was left at the victim's home. The car was an older model light blue Chevette.
If you have any information about this crime, call Crime Stoppers at 689-TIPS in the Boca Del Rey area, 276-TIPS. Information could be worth up to a $1,000 reward, and you don't have to give your name.
Traffic confrontations which lead to violence are becoming an increasing concern for law enforcement. Often it's the innocent bystander who becomes the victim. This case is a classic example.
The trouble began when the occupants of a white Chevy pickup truck exchanged words with the occupants of a small blue car in the parking lot of the Pizza Hut at Australian and 45th Street. It was about midnight Saturday, September 26th, and tempers were short. The two men in the small car then returned to Bernie's Pub at 1239 West 45th Street. Once inside, they dismissed the incident. A short time later, another patron arriving at the pub saw the white truck and thought the man in the parking lot looked suspicious.
Hey, man, what are you doing here?
He reported it to his friends
No,
inside.
you don't belong here.
The incident was apparently discounted until the shooting began. Harry Boykin, age 40, an innocent victim of random gunfire, slumped to the floor beside the bar. There was a moment of panic. Then police and rescue units were called. Boykin remains in critical condition in the hospital. Sheriff's investigators are asking for information about the 72 or 73 model white Chevy pickup and the two black males. One is described as about 5 feet 8 inches to 5 feet 10 inches, 140 pounds, with short afro hairstyle. He was wearing a white shirt and gold chain. The other was wearing a green hospital-type shirt.
Any information about this crime is worth up to $1,000 reward from Crime Stoppers. Call the anonymous tips line at 689-TIPS. You don't have to give your name to collect the reward.
Was it a crime of opportunity or simply a ruthless act of violence triggered by panic? Whatever the reason, for one elderly woman, it was a time of terror. She barely escaped with her life.
It was about 7:30 p.m. on Saturday, October 10th, when the Chevy Cavalier pulled into the Chevron station at 2001 West Atlantic Avenue in Delray. The Delray Beach family had no indication of danger until the young driver went inside to pay for the gas.
Get out of the car! Everybody, get out of the car! Get out of the car! Get out!
With the grandmother still in the rear seat, the suspect fled west on Atlantic Avenue. He had reached a speed of about 40 miles per hour when he forced his elderly passenger out of the car. Although she survived her injuries, the trauma for the entire family remains. The car is an '85 Chevrolet Cavalier, gray, two-door, with Florida license PM327. The suspect is a black male in his 20s, about 5 feet 7 inches, 180 pounds. His hairstyle was short, except for a 1 1/2 inch tag in back.
Any information about this stolen car or the suspect can be worth up to a $1,000 reward from Crime Stoppers. Call 689-TIPS with information about any serious crime. In Boca Del Rey, call 276-TIPS. You don't have to give your name to get the reward from Crime Stoppers.
What you're about to see is not a Crime Stoppers dramatization. The tape was made while the crime was being committed. The man you will see is the actual suspect. Police need help in identifying him. It was early morning, Friday, November 26th, 1:22 a.m., when the man broke into New York Men's Clothing at 438 North Federal Highway in Boynton Beach. He worked quickly. Grabbing a large number of suits and shirts from the display racks, he threw them over his shoulder. If you are offered an unbelievable bargain in quality menswear, be careful. You may be buying stolen merchandise. Make a note of the seller's description and tell it to Crime Stoppers. This suspect is a black male, approximately 6 feet tall, 165 pounds. He has close-cropped hair and dark skin tone. At the time, he was wearing a white shirt and white pants. If you recognize this individual or have information about this or any other serious crime, call Crime Stoppers at 689-TIPS. Palm Beach Gardens police are asking for help in identifying a rapist who's also a car thief, a burglar, and believed to be a crack addict. The woman was asleep in her apartment, located just off North Lake Boulevard in Palm Beach Gardens. The date was Tuesday, November 3rd. The time probably was between 3 to 4 o'clock in the morning when the man eased open the sliding glass door and quietly began ransacking the rooms. He was looking for any valuables which could be easily carried. Then came the final violation of the 24-year-old victim. She was awakened as the man lay down beside her in bed. There could be no escape from the sexual battery. Then he was gone. Police, responding to the 911 call within just 3 minutes, saw the speeding white 86 Honda Prelude, which had been stolen earlier in Palm Beach Gardens. They followed it south on I-95, where the suspect abandoned it, leaving his clothes and the stolen articles in the car. Police confiscated the maroon long-sleeve jacket, brown corduroys, size 36 by 36, tennis shorts, boxer shorts, socks, and size 13 black Puma sneakers. He made good his escape by stealing another car, which was abandoned in West Palm Beach. The suspect is a black male between 6'3" to 6'9", weighs about 130 pounds.
If you know anything about this man, call Crime Stoppers at 689-TIPS. You don't have to give your name, and you could be eligible up to $1,000 for your information.
A damaged car or truck is difficult to hide. Sometimes it is the only clue to a driver who has been involved in a hit-and-run accident. The Florida Highway Patrol is asking for help through Crime Stoppers to find the person responsible for one such accident, which resulted in the death of another Palm Beach County resident. Military Trail and Roebuck Street is a high-traffic area at any time. It is particularly hazardous for pedestrians. Late-night hours and dark clothing certainly double the danger. It was about 4 a.m. on Saturday, November 14th, when Andre Rene Morel left his friends and started home. He seemed unmindful of any danger as he walked south on Military Trail. It is probable that the driver of the vehicle was also unaware of the dangerous situation he would face in the roadway immediately ahead. There was a sudden crushing impact, one deadly blow, then panic for the driver. He fled, leaving the scene with no thought for his victim. Andre Rene Morel, age 24, was dead, victim of the hit-and-run driver. From the shattered glass found at the scene, investigators believe there is considerable damage to the front of the vehicle, with the right headlight probably shattered. The exact type of vehicle is still undetermined. This driver must be held responsible for his total disregard of his victim. We need your help in reporting such evidence of unexplained damage. Call Crime Stoppers at 689-TIPS. You don't have to give your name, and Crime Stoppers pays up to a $1,000 reward. If you were in the area of Palm Springs Shopping Center on Saturday, December 19th, you may be able to help identify a man responsible for a brutal attack. It was about 6:25 a.m. The 71-year-old woman liked an early morning walk and wanted to mail her Christmas cards. She was unaware of any danger, but the man had apparently waited for just such an opportunity. He struck from behind, then dragged the woman to a dumpster area on the southeast side of the parking lot. It was a savage attack, attempted sexual assault and battery. Then, fearing discovery, he fled. The suspect is a white male, 20 to 25 years old, 5 feet 6 inches to 5 feet 9 inches, about 150 pounds, with short dark hair. He was wearing white shorts and no shirt. You may have seen such a person in the Palm Springs area. The woman was found about 10 minutes later. A call to 911 brought immediate response, but the first blow had caused critical damage. Her skull was fractured. The frail, 120-pound victim died December 22nd as a result of her injuries.
We are asking for any information that could help identify this man. Crime Stoppers will pay up to $1,000 reward, and you don't have to give your name. Call Crime Stoppers at 689-TIPS if you have information about any serious crime.
One of the most frightening side effects of crack cocaine is the increasing violence in the streets. For those who deal outside the law and innocent victims caught in the crossfire, the danger is equally as real. Frederick Mack and his friend Earl Bradford had stopped to talk in the 1600 block of Douglas Avenue. The date was November 4, the time about 10:45 p.m. It was only when the car pulled to the curb beside them that they realized their danger.
Hey, man, where my money at, man? Hold it, man. I don't want to hear that. You owe me my money.
Frederick Mack, age 27, had been downed by the first shot. His more fortunate friend escaped the deadly bullets. The gunman then turned his attention to the man on the ground, taking the cash from his victim's pockets. This man is described as a black male, between 5 feet 9 inches and 5 feet 10 inches, medium build, with dark complexion. He wasted no time getting back into the waiting car, said to be an older model GM, probably a Chevy, either tan, brown, or orange tone. The driver was also a black male. They fled north on Douglas Avenue. As a result of the gunshot wounds, Frederick Mack died November 13th.
If you know something about this or any other serious crime, call 689-TIPS. You can be eligible for up to a $1,000 reward, and you don't have to leave your name. Just remember, Crime Stoppers works.
Since September 9, 1981, Crime Stoppers of Palm Beach County has offered a fast, effective way for citizens and law enforcement to work together in getting the criminals off our streets. During the last 5 months alone, 5 homicides have been solved as a direct result of calls to the anonymous tips line. During the year just ended, anonymous calls led to 172 cases being cleared and 115 arrests. Property recovered totaled $137,360, and the value of narcotics seized was another $119,145. Since the program began, almost 1,000 cases have been solved and 565 arrests made because of calls to Crime Stoppers. The value of stolen property recovered and illegal drugs confiscated has reached more than $11.5 million. Crime Stoppers is your program. The tips line, which offers anonymity to the caller, and the rewards for information are citizens' efforts. We can do something about crime here in South Florida, and the best weapon is the telephone. If you know something about any serious crime, call Crime Stoppers at 689-TIPS. In Boca Del Rey, 276-TIPS, and in the Glades, 996-TIPS. You don't have to give your name, and Crime Stoppers will pay up to a $1,000 reward for your information. If you know something about any of these wanted persons, Crime Stoppers needs that information. Juan D. Garza, whose last known address was Belle Glade, is 5 feet 7 inches tall and weighs 177 pounds. He is 34 years old, has black hair and brown eyes, and the charge against him is second-degree murder. William Coney, also known as Willie Brantley, is 5 feet 5 inches tall and weighs 150 pounds. Coney is 34 years old and is wanted for armed robbery. 50-year-old Wyatt Kirsch, who has worked as a construction supervisor, is wanted for sexual battery and possession of a firearm. He has brown hair and brown eyes, is 5 feet 9 inches tall, and weighs 175 pounds. Tyrone Davis, age 21, is 5 feet 4 inches tall and weighs 125 pounds. Davis also uses the names Jerry Flint, Tyrone Moore, and Tyrone Hosby. He is wanted on numerous felony charges, including robbery and aggravated assault. 28-year-old Miguel de Jesus is also known as Santiago de Jesus or Miguel Santiago. He is 5 feet 3 inches, weighs 110 pounds, and the charge against him is murder. Call the tips line at 689-TIPS. Any information could be valuable, And Crime Stoppers pays up to a $1,000 reward. Early Brown was on familiar ground on the corner of West 7th Street and Avenue G in Riviera Beach with one of his closest friends. The date was Sunday, November 9, 1986. The time, about 7:20 p.m.
You're a dead man! Call the police! Call the police!
The car driven by the gunman was described as a 75 to 79 Toyota or Ford Pinto wagon or hatchback, maroon or red, with a luggage rack. The driver, a white male, is in his late 20s to early 30s, 5 feet 7 inches to 5 feet 11 inches tall, slender build, and a slender face with a mustache. His brown curly hair was above shoulder length, but partially covered his ears. The weapon was a .32 or .38 caliber blue steel snub-nosed revolver. Early Brown, age 24, died from a single gunshot wound in the back. Although this senseless shooting is believed to be drug-related, investigators have been unsuccessful in identifying the gunman. Now, Crime Stoppers provides a way to help apprehend the criminal without getting involved.
If you know anything about the killing of Early Brown, call Crime Stoppers at 689-TIPS. Any information on this or any other serious crime is worth up to a $1,000 reward, and you don't have to give your name.
Did y'all hear my pop get shot? No. He got shot.
Arthur Stroman was well known by the residents and storekeepers in the Tamarind Avenue area of West Palm Beach. It was about 11:35 p.m. on Sunday, February 7, when she said goodnight to several of her friends in the 700 block of Tamarind and started across the familiar street. She had no warning of the speeding car, no time to avoid the deadly impact. The car, described as a late 70s model white or cream-colored Toyota Corolla, continued south on Tamarind, its speed still estimated at 60 miles per hour. It was last seen turning east on 3rd Street. Arthur had been thrown some 45 feet from the point of contact. Death came less than 2 hours later. Leaving the scene without stopping to offer aid is a felony, and the driver is now a wanted fugitive. You were asked to be on the lookout for the light-colored Toyota Corolla, probably showing recent damage to the front end. Or you may hear something that could help identify the driver. Tell it to Crime Stoppers.
Information about this or any other serious crime is worth up to $1,000 reward from Crime Stoppers. Dial 689-TIPS. No one can know who made the call.
It was just before 5 p.m. on Friday, January 29th, when the two men entered J.A. Christie's jewelry store in the Pine Trail Shopping Center. Threatened by what looked like a .357 Magnum, the male clerk was forced into the office and handcuffed. His car keys, too, were taken. The woman was also handcuffed. Then the two robbers made quick work of cleaning out the display cases. While one finished the job, the other brought the car to the front of the store. They fled with about $300,000 in stolen jewelry and watches. Suspect number 1 is a white male, about 5 feet 8 inches, 170 pounds, with black hair and dark complexion. He wore an oversized gray suit. Suspect number 2 is about 5 feet 10 inches, 180 pounds, with a medium mustache. He wore a turquoise T-shirt under a multicolored flannel shirt. It is believed these same two were responsible for an earlier jewelry store robbery in Boca Raton. If you have any information, call Crime Stoppers at 689-TIPS or in Boca Del Rey, 276-TIPS. Remain anonymous and receive up to a $1,000 reward. It was just before 5 p.m. on Friday, January 29th, when the two men entered J.A. Christie's jewelry store in the Pine Trail Shopping Center.
Hey, shut up. It's a robbery. Get in here.
Threatened by what looked like a .357 Magnum, the male clerk was forced into the office and handcuffed. His car keys, too, were taken. The woman was also handcuffed.
Everything all right, Junior? Yeah, watch the street. Okay. I got his car keys. Stay there and don't move. Things good out
Then
here.
the two robbers made quick work
here.
of cleaning out the display cases.
Okay, great. I'm going to start with this county here. See that old guy over there? Yes. Duck down a little bit. Watch the street. I'm watching. I got it on this side. Watch her. She's all right. She's fine. You all right? Get it all. Get it all. Get it all. Okay? Okay. How you doing over there? All right, we got a lot more stuff. Boy, they got a lot
Then
of
the
jewelry.
two robbers made quick work of cleaning out the display cases. While one finished the job, the other brought the car to the front of the store. They fled with about $300,000 in stolen jewelry and watches. Suspect number 1 is a white male, about 5 feet 8 inches, 170 pounds, with black hair and dark complexion. He wore an oversized gray suit. Suspect number 2 is about 5 feet 10 inches, 180 pounds, with a medium mustache. He wore a turquoise T-shirt under a multicolored flannel shirt.
You may have seen something at the Pine Trail Shopping Center on January 29th, which could help identify these armed robbers. Call Crime Stoppers at 689-TIPS. Remain anonymous and collect up to a $1,000 reward.
The fabric shop known as Calico Corners was a landmark in the city of Boca Raton. The building, constructed in 1926, was valued for its historical significance. It was about 1 a.m. on February 29th when the intruder kicked in the west door of the shop with its floor-to-ceiling stock of fabrics. He hastily set up the incendiary. Then, making sure that the flames were spreading, he quietly let himself out through the double-locked doors and probably fled through Big Daddy's parking lot onto Federal Highway. At 1:13 a.m., police officers were on routine patrol when they spotted the smoke and flames and called for help. The fire department responded immediately, but nothing could save Calico Corners. Damage to the building and contents was estimated at $500,000. Because of its historical value, the building is irreplaceable. Someone may have information which could identify the arsonist. It could be worth up to a $1,000 reward. Call Crime Stoppers in Boca Raton at 276-TIPS or in West Palm Beach at 689-TIPS. And remember, you don't have to give your name. It was Sunday night, January 24th, and the owner of Pierre's Supermarket at 522 Northwood Road would have been on his way home, except for the flat tire. For Pierre Michel, changing his truck tire in front of the store was an aggravation, but at 20 minutes past midnight, that aggravation turned to tragedy.
Listen, yeah, what'd you do with the money, Ray, bro? What'd you do with the money?
It was you, Prod, okay?
Hey, what'd you do with the money, man? Hey,
An attempted robbery or drug-related violence? In any event, Pierre Michel, Haitian businessman, died at the age of 31 from the gunshot wound to the head. Two black males were seen running from the Northwood Road location. You may have seen or heard something which could identify the gunman.
If you know something about serious crime and don't want to get involved, call us at Crime Stoppers. The number's on the front page of your phone book. We don't want your name, just the information, and you could be eligible up to a $1,000 cash reward.
The date was January 4th. The time, about 5 a.m. The person who had just arrived at the polo field in Wellington knew he'd have to work quickly to avoid being seen. He was delivering a special cargo, and the least mistake would be costly. 3 pipe bombs taped together were more powerful than one would ordinarily use for a simple case of vandalism. After placing the explosives on the junction box of the scoreboard, he lit the fuse. It was all in the timing. The length of the rocket fuse would allow just enough time for him to get away safely. Investigators believe this to be the work of an extremist, or at best, someone in need of psychological help. The timing and power of the explosives indicate it was no mere prank. If you know something about this unexplained vandalism or the motive behind it, Crime Stoppers will pay up to a $1,000 reward for your information. Call 689-TIPS. Don't give your name. You don't get involved. You just get the cash reward from Crime Stoppers.